Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, YouTube. Today is Sunday, January 21st, 2018. It is day 38 of Fear Not. For the next few blogs, I want to talk about forgiveness or the courage to forgive, because I believe you have to be courageous to forgive. I think it's not being able to forgive is an attribute of the strong, because it requires humility, it requires a looking beyond yourself, it requires submission, and those are all characteristics and attributes of someone who is strong and who is brave. So I think it takes courage to forgive. I also believe that forgiveness comes in levels. There are some things that are easier to forgive than others. And so as we go through these next few blocks, please know that my heart is not saying that forgiveness is easy, particularly for things that are just atrocities. Um, those things that people have hurt you physically or mentally, hurt you or your family, those things require the grace of God. All things require the grace of God, but those things do. And those things require healing. And they certainly are not easy tasks or tasks that can be done just very simply. But let's talk today about things that maybe are a little bit easier to forgive. There's a verse in Matthew 18. It's Matthew 18 and 21, and it says, "Then Peter came up and said to him, 'Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times?' Verse 22, Jesus said to him, 'I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times. Jesus tells him to forgive 77 times because we are required as Christians to forgive. Because if we want God to forgive us, we have to forgive others. But 77 times, that's a lot of times to forgive someone. So let me give you a little bit of advice. And it goes back to what we talked about a few days ago. Sometimes you have to cut the rope on people so that you don't have to forgive them 77 times. Maybe you only have to forgive them 7 times. Just because there are people in our life who we know, people who every single time we come into contact with them, they do things to offend us. They criticize us. They call us names. They make us feel bad about ourselves. So every single time we come in contact with them, we have this burden of forgiveness. So how about this? I know that there's certain people that you cannot cut the rope completely with. They're your family members, they're people that you work with, they're people who you have to come in contact with. But my mother has this saying, and it's one of her best sayings. Some people you have to treat with a long-handled spoon. Okay? So what's the purpose of a long-handled spoon when it's like a big soup spoon, right? So when you're getting soup out of a pot, you use a long-handled spoon so that you don't get burned. If you used a regular small spoon and you were trying to get soup out of a pot, your hands would be so close to the soup that you would get burned. So you use a long handled spoon. So these people who are in your life who you have to forgive 77 times, how about this? They call you every day. How about you don't answer every day? How about you answer once a week? Because that means that this week you don't have to forgive them 7 times, you just have to forgive them once. That long-handled spoon. A coworker who every time you talk to them, they say something offensive to you. How about when you see them coming into the lunchroom, that's kind of your clue to leave. Not every day, not every time, but certain days, so that you don't have to forgive them 7 times this week. You only have to forgive them once. That family member who every time you come in contact with them, they talk about your kids, they talk about your husband, and you want to punch him in the face. How about you don't always sit next to them at the family events? In some family events, you may have to kind of treat them with a long-handled spoon. Don't get so close so that you have to forgive them 77 times. Listen, guys, these things are not easy things, but I think that they're things that are important because we have a mission and we have a journey that we're on. Like, we have a mission to live out this thing of this gospel of Jesus Christ, to forgive people, to walk in love, to discover and reach the purposes that God has for our lives. So let's try to cut out some of the things that get in the way of that. Listen, we're talking about forgiveness. Next time we're going to get a little bit deeper. We're going to get a little bit deeper into forgiveness. But for those things that we can kind of avoid and stay away from and cut the rope with, let's start with that. I'll see you next.